What's up, guys? Elfis here, and today we're going to be doing another HoN Tips. It's been a little while, but we're back into it. This HoN Tips episode is going to be about last hitting as a hard carry, particularly in the short lane, although this does apply to if you're last hitting in mid lane or suicide or long lane, whichever way you want to do it. Although if you're playing suicide, it's a bit different. The rules don't necessarily want to try doing these things because you may die, but you could still use them to last hit when you're in the scenarios. So, last hitting tips. Unfortunately, there aren't too many tips I can give you on last hitting. What I can say is two things. Firstly, practice makes perfect, and I'll give you guys an exercise right now. This is from, I didn't come up with this. This is from, I believe it was Swindle Melons. I heard him say it in an interview. I believe it was him. I could be mistaken, though. It might be somebody else. But it's from an interview of a professional player. I don't remember exactly which one, although I think it was Swindle Melons. And I like the exercise, so I'm going to promote it. Basically, what you do is you go into a practice mode game by yourself. You go down mid lane. You're last hitting just by yourself, nobody else in the game, and you're last hitting, and you try and get the max score over and over again. You just practice. You play however long you want, although typically 10 minutes is what he recommended you do. I've tried 5 and 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes is a decent amount of time to do it. And you try and get the max amount of last hits you can get. Keep in mind that 4 creeps come down every 30 seconds for 10 minutes. You guys, so there's a finite amount you can get, and you basically just want to try and get the max amount. If you do it 3 times in a row, that's essentially a good sign that you've mastered the exercise, and you can move on to play against real people, and then it should be easier, and that's a good way to practice your last hitting. It's obviously, not the same exact thing as playing against real players in last hitting. That's why, once you've mastered that to an extent, move on to last hitting against real players. It really won't be the same thing. So, there's that. The other thing I will say, when it comes to last hitting, that is about as much tips I can give you when it comes to practicing your last hitting. Just practice is all I'm really going to say on that. Now, when it comes to last hitting in the lane against other people, one of the key techniques that professional players use, as well as amateurs such as myself, or I guess I'm not necessarily an amateur, but I am an amateur in the same regards. I'm not a 1400 player, but you guys know what I'm saying. The non-professional players use in typically higher tier games. You don't see them too much in 15s or lower, anything like that. Typically, players don't use this kind of technique, although it's decent and it will actually help you quite a bit. Is you'll see people attack. You will see them attack their friendly creatures to be on par at the same health level as the enemy creatures are. So that way, what that allows you to do is it causes the enemy hero to have to choose between either denying or last hitting. Okay, now if you're playing 2v2 in the lane, technically they could potentially do both, but it's still not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. So it forces the enemy hard carry, who typically is the one dealing with creeps, or the enemy carry or semi-carry, whatever it is, who's typically the one dealing with last hitting, while as the support is typically harassing and zoning, things like that. It forces them to have to choose between either denying and stopping your last hit, but in that process they will miss their last hit, or taking their last hit, in which case you will also receive a last hit. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Typically you would do that if your support knows what they're doing and they can zone them out of getting the other one, things like that. Like you go for your last hit and then they can't get the deny necessarily, or things like that. So it synergizes with a bit of teamwork. So obviously, if you just hit it down, then you both get last hits. That's good. It's not necessarily beneficial to you though if you can't out carry them, or if you can't beat them. You know what I mean? So, or if they miss, things like that. That's beneficial. But so that's a good technique to allow you to do it. The other thing is hatchet. Obviously, a lot of people know how to use a hatchet. The one thing I'll say about hatchet, it's not rocket science on using it. The one thing I will say is that keep in mind that your hatchet isn't actually the same as your auto attack, because your auto attack procs the percentage gain from hatchet. Hatchet will use the base attack damage you'll see. So like in this game it would use 63 to 72, but my auto attacks would do 63 to 72 plus whatever I think it's 32% if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that though. I believe it's 32% for a hatchet that increases, so it would do that plus the 32%. So keep in mind that your hatchet may not necessarily kill something if you're thinking, oh well, my auto attack killed it at this health, I can use a hatchet too. That's not necessarily true. So that's the only thing I'll say about the hatchet. keep that in mind when you're using hatchet, and that will kind of so hatchet needs to be a bit lower than your auto attack typically. Okay, so other than that, I hope this was helpful. I know there isn't too much advice I can give you on last hitting other than just practice. That's really what it comes down to. It's one of those things where, you know, there aren't really any secrets to it. It's pretty much just practice it, or, you know, you're not really going to get too good at it. So practice on your own, guys. Let me know how it goes in the comments down below. Let me know if these tips helped you guys at all. And, you know, send me requests for, not requests, well, yeah, you can send me friend requests too, but I meant, like, let me know down in the comments below what other tips you guys would like to know. I have a couple more in mind that I'm going to do, but, you know, if you guys were requesting some, I'll do those first. Those will be better anyways, probably, because you guys actually want to see them. So if you guys have requests, let me know down below, for tips, that is. And other than that, I will talk to you guys later. GG, well played, guys. Elfis out.